It's a snowy winter night. You're inside your cozy house and watching a historical movie that takes place during the Middle Ages. As you take another sip of your hot chocolate, you can't help but wonder how the people survived the winter back then. At that exact moment, your TV screen suddenly turns into a portal and pulls you inside. Whoa! You open your eyes to find yourself within the world of the movie you were just watching. A man approaches you and says, "Welcome to my medieval village. I am Bartholomew, and I called you here to give you an answer to your question." First of all, let me tell you that conditions became extremely harsh when the cold arrives, and not just for the northern countries. Mainland Europe takes its share of the brutal weather too. So winter is kind of a slowing down time for all of us. You see, we usually associate winter with old age and poverty because of all the changes that occur in nature during this time. For example, we can't really grow any crops when snow covers all our land. And by the early 14th century, things started to get even worse because we started seeing the first signs of what you may know as the Little Ice Age. Cold temperatures peaked. Weather anomalies and extreme events such as sudden floods or hailstorms started to occur, which added to our agony. Take the winter of 1359, for instance. Across central Italy, the snow rose to extraordinary heights. People had to throw the snow into the streets to lighten up their roofs. And because of that, some towns were completely blocked. Their inhabitants were trapped in their homes for several days. Another example of this is the winter of 1389. The snowfall was so great in the Luzerne region of France that many people's farmsteads and houses were destroyed. Bartholomew notices that you start shivering. "Ah, you were not prepared for this journey back to medieval winters, I see. Let's walk to my home and find you some warmer clothes. As you can see, I'm already wearing a cloak, a scarf, and mittens, which are all made out of wool. I also have boots that are made out of leather from a deer. Still, all these are not really enough to stay warm when one is outside. That's why we usually layer other clothes underneath them all to keep the warmth trapped. By the way, the wool can get heavy and itchy sometimes. So beneath our woolen outer clothing, we wear linen undergarments too. The linen acts as a barrier between the wool and the skin, therefore making things a bit more comfortable for us. It is also easier to wash linen clothes, and they dry way faster than woolen ones. The wealthier ones can line their winter clothing with fur, and us regular peasants sometimes use rabbit and lamb for the same purpose. It's not as glamorous, but still effective. We can also hunt some wild animals and birds with the permission of the Lord. Yet again, the sumptuary laws, in other words, consumption laws, are very clear on who can wear what according to their social standing. Take the 1363 English sumptuary law, for example. It states that the wives and daughters of craftspeople and land-owning peasants were only allowed to wear lamb, rabbit, cat, and fox furs. You notice a weird-looking hinged metal sphere in Bartholomew's pocket, and ask him what that is. "Ah, it's a hand warmer," he says, as he gives it to you. "If we are going to be outdoors for a long time, we bring one of these with us. Otherwise, one's fingers can get numb, you know. Now take a closer look at it, and you'll see that it has tiny holes on its surface. This helps the heat to escape, so that we can warm our hands without burning them once we fill it with hot coal." "That's kinda heavy," you say, and think about how lucky you are to be living in modern times. With just one click from the comfort of your home, you can order Hot Hands instant hand warmers from Amazon, and no coal is necessary. You can even put those inside your shoes to warm your toes, since they're pocket-sized, unlike this metal orb. You and Bartholomew arrive at his house. You realize that he does not take any of his outer garments off. "We keep everything on during the coldest months because the indoor heating isn't always great," he says. "As you can see, the fireplace stands here at the center of our homes, and right above it, there is a ventilation hole rather than a chimney, which causes us to lose so much of the heat. Yet again, we don't usually sleep in our outside clothes. Instead, we put bricks and stones in the fire, wrap them in fabric, and take them to our beds to warm the sheets. Wearing our nightcaps all night long also helps. And when we're not sleeping, we usually try to stay close to the fireplace as much as possible." You sure appreciate that hot water bottle of yours more now, right? And you didn't even need to cover it with a cloth, like these folks have to do. It already came with a knit cover for your convenience. And the best part is, it's much softer than a brick, and can be heated in the microwave within seconds. "How rude of me! I forgot to offer you something to eat," Bartholomew says. "I know I already told you winter means stillness for us, but we still need to put in some work to not starve. There's a lot of preparation to be done in advance to survive these medieval winters. First of all, we start gathering wood for the fire from as early as spring and through the summer. Then there's the food we harvest in the fall. We have to preserve that in a special way, so all will last over the winter months. The same thing goes for meat, too. The methods we use include pickling, drying, and brining. In terms of grains, cereals, and pulses, we dry them out and store them in ceramic or clay pots. We later use them for making potted stews and soups, in addition to vegetables. Basically, everything we can find goes into the pot. The most common foods we eat in our everyday lives include onions, peas, beans, lentils, and herbs such as parsley. We still have to include protein in our diet, though, and we do that by eating cheese, eggs, fatty bacon, or salted pork. In terms of fresh fruits and berries, they are hard to find during wintertime, so we preserve the ones we already picked by the air drying method too. You think to yourself, if only these people had a food dryer at home, their lives would be so much easier. They could use it for all the foods Bartholomew just mentioned, from fruits to meat. Then again, there's no electricity here. I wouldn't want you to think winters are so grim, long, and boring after everything I've told you. We still do plenty of activities to keep ourselves entertained, Bartholomew says. But what? It's not like they can binge watch their favorite TV shows. We play in the snow a lot, adults and children all together. You can see plenty of peasants ice skating on the frozen lakes. To be able to do that, we used to use pieces of polished wood or horse shin bones. But now, we have iron skates too. I need to mention though, here in Western Europe, ice skating is not as common as in Scandinavia. That is because they are more accustomed to snow and cold temperatures. Sledding is another fun activity we do. Then there are indoor games, such as chess, backgammon, and other dice games. Wool spinning and telling stories are also common ways to spend some nice time with our family. Not surprisingly, nobles have more opportunities in the entertainment area too. For example, boar hunting is very common amongst the elite. At that moment, a portal appears at the door. Bartholomew says, "Guess it's time for you to head back, traveler. Fare thee well."
Now, who would have guessed that the most important accessory in your car might be a nail file? In case you need to get your nails done right away? Nah, to refresh your wipers. Wipers have a rubber that cleans the glass. It wipes water and particles of dirt and insects off the windshield. Over time, this rubber strip gets covered with a layer of dirt, and the wipers stop doing their thing. So all you have to do is take the wipers off and rub them with a nail file. This will remove the layer of dirt, and your wipers will last for a few more months. This is especially important during the cold season, when you need to constantly clean your car of snow. This trick will not only help you see through your windshield better and make driving safer, but it will also save you a lot of money on new wipers. Hey, you parked badly and hit your car on a pole. Well, a small dimple can be fixed with an ice cube. Just lean a piece of dry ice on the impact site and voila! The bumper looks like new. But this method is only suitable for metal parts. It's about thermal expansion. When metal gets hot, it expands, and when it cools, it tries to shrink. So, when you put ice on the dimple, there's tension inside the metal that causes it to return to its previous shape. You can also use a regular suction cup like the ones they use to transport glass. Just stick it to the dent and then pull. A regular plunger that you use to clean a clogged sink will also work for this. Now, let's try to hide the scratches at the impact site. Try picking up a regular nail polish the same color as your car. Usually, scratches on the bodywork are not deep, and they only damage the top layer of clear coat and don't even penetrate to the layer of paint itself. A fresh batch of nail polish will fill the scratch, and your car will look like new. And if you've damaged your car windshield somehow and you see little cracks forming there, use transparent nail polish. Again, the nail polish fills in the micro hollows in the crack and keeps it from getting even bigger. Now, a couple of tricks to keep your car clean at all times. Boy, I could use that. Let's start with the headlights. If you can't get the headlights clean from insects after a long drive, use a regular shaver. It can scrape off unwanted dirt that is stuck to the headlights. You can do the same with the windshield, just don't press too hard or you might scratch the glass. And to keep your headlights clean no matter what, you need to take a regular candle and white spirit and common solvent. Grade the candle and pour it into a glass. Add the solvent to the glass and heat the glass with a hairdryer. Now apply this to your headlights or even your windshield. This will create a protective wax layer that will repel dirt and water droplets. You can also apply wax to your side mirrors and they won't get covered in water when it rains. If your headlights still do get dirty, squeeze some toothpaste on a dry rag and polish your headlights. Toothpaste does a much better job than conventional cleaners. Plus, they don't get cavities. To protect your car's bodywork from dirt and rain, use hair conditioner. Mix 1 portion of the hair conditioner and 2 portions of water. Apply this mixture to the car with a microfiber cloth. It's important to do it to the car when it's as clean as possible. It's perfect timing to do this after you wash it. Then wait 5 minutes and dry the car. This protection will now repel any drops of dirt and rain. Now to the interior. You may have noticed that the windshield and rear window often fog up. This is because the water that is contained in the warm interior air comes into contact with the cold windows of the car. Water condenses, turns into droplets, and stays on the window. Now, take your regular shaving foam and put it on the windshield from the inside. A portion the size of your fist is enough for the entire windshield. Wait a few minutes and wipe the windshield with a dry cloth. The chemicals in the shaving foam will repel water droplets from your windshield so it won't fog up. You can also fight moisture in the interior of the car in the first place. To do this, take an ordinary sock and fill it with kitty litter if your cat doesn't mind. Tie the sock up and just put it in the car. Kitty litter will absorb moisture from the air in the car and your windows will stay dry. And this sock can come in handy in a tough situation. So you're stuck in a field in snowy weather. The wheels are spinning in the snow and your car is standing still. Well, just sprinkle some kitty litter out of the sock right in front of your car's driving wheels. The traction of the wheels will get better and you'll be able to get out of the snow trap. But what if your battery is low in a deserted place? There's no one to help you start the car. Well, get a jack and lift the drive wheels of your car. Make sure you're doing it safely. Now, get a tow rope. You should always have one in your car. Wrap the rope around the wheel so that when you pull it, the wheel simulates movement forward. Put the car in first gear, turn the ignition key. Now start to quickly unwind the rope so that the wheel starts to turn. Voila! The car is started. It's like starting a car by pushing it. It's important to remember that this trick only works with cars with a manual gearbox. If you don't want to spill oil when you pour it into the engine, just put a screwdriver in the hole and pour oil over it. The more advanced option is to use the oil can as a watering can. The thing is, the threads on it fit perfectly with the threads on the engine hole. So take an empty oil can and cut off the bottom. Now screw the canister into the hole and pour oil without fear of spilling it on the engine. If a door handle or lock gets frozen in the winter, use regular hand sanitizer. It'll melt the ice almost instantly. You can also soak a key in hand sanitizer and put it in the lock. You should be able to open it in a few seconds. If you don't have antiseptic, take out an ordinary straw, lean it against the lock, and blow warm air through it. A few minutes of breathing and the lock can be opened. You're charging your phone in the car, but you're tired of long wires that keep getting tangled. No need to cut them. Take your charging wire and wind it around a pencil. Now blow hot air on it with a hairdryer. Just don't overheat the wire. How about that? It now looks like a flexible spring, and its length is much shorter. If you like lemonade or Coke, but don't have a can opener in your car, not a problem. Just use the tip of your seatbelt. Pop! And you can enjoy your favorite drink. If you live in the sunny states, you've often found that the steering wheel of your car sometimes gets so hot you can almost burn your hands. The easiest solution is to turn the steering wheel in the parking lot so that its bottom is up. Once back in the car, you can hold the steering wheel by the cooler top side. Also, if the car gets too hot in the parking lot, just roll down the driver's window. Get out of the car. Now open and close the rear passenger door several times. This will speed up the process of airing the interior, and you won't have to drive in an oven on wheels. When you get out of the car, you may sometimes get an electric shock. This is because of static electricity. You rub your clothes on the seat and then you touch the metal door when you try to close it. At this point, there's an electric shock between your hand and the door. To avoid this, open the door first by touching the body of the car with your hand. You can touch the passenger door from the outside. Then put your foot on the ground and get out of the car. Yay! You avoided an electric shock. If you're a novice driver, you may not have a good feel for the actual size of the car, so you might scratch it by parking it even in your own garage. Just hang a tennis ball from the ceiling so that it touches the windshield or rear window exactly when you need to hit the brakes. Perfect parking and no scratches. If you share the car with someone, you have to constantly move the driver's seat. To simplify this process, you can put little strips of colored tape on the panel under the seat and the driver's door where the seat is in a comfortable position. Now, when adjusting the seat, you just need to put these strips against each other. You can use different colors of tape for each driver. Or the other driver can get their own darn car. An expensive solution indeed. Yes, it is.
When it's too cold outside, airplanes often get delayed, or in extreme cases, even cancelled altogether. First of all, if it snows heavily, such conditions drastically decrease visibility, making it unsafe to taxi and take off. During a blizzard, flight control may command the aircraft to stay on the ground and wait until the snowstorm subsides. Ice on the runway is another reason. An airplane's landing gear are nothing like a car's wheels, and they can't be equipped with studs to avoid skidding. But even if they were, a plane needs to develop speeds on the ground that are much higher than on an average road to take off successfully. If the runway is slippery with ice, the airplane can slide off it easily. Things like this actually happened in the past. For example, in January 2014, the JFK airport in New York was shut down after a plane skidded off the runway and into the snow. Luckily, no one was injured, but the airport staff had to dig the aircraft out of the snow, and even the local police joined the efforts. Same story with landing, which is even trickier in freezing conditions because a plane is in much less of a controlled environment and traveling at even greater speeds. What's more, while an airplane that's about to take off and skidding will probably get into an open area and stop there, one that's about to land could end up crashing into the airport's infrastructure. Needless to say, that's way more dangerous for everyone. Freezing weather conditions can also cause frost and ice sheets to build up on the plane itself. Airplanes are carefully engineered, and any tampering with their structure may cause huge trouble. As experienced pilots say, even a thin crust of ice over the wings of a plane can mess with their delicate design and destroy lift. Planes can be de-iced though. The airport staff usually spray them with a special solution that doesn't let the ice build up on the aircraft's skin. But back to the runway. If it's covered with ice, there's little you can do. Unless the sun is shining, the chances of safely removing the ice from the pavement are almost zero. There's also a chance of damaging the pavement, making potholes, which can result in safety concerns for both takeoff and landing. Imagine driving over a pothole in a car at full speed. Pretty unpleasant. And now multiply it by about 1,000, because a plane is much heavier than a car, and don't forget that the landing gear is not exactly there for driving. Jet fuel and the equipment that pumps it can freeze too if the temperature is too low. The fuel freezes at -40 degrees Fahrenheit, but that can only happen on the ground before takeoff. At a cruising altitude, temperatures may drop as low as -70 degrees Fahrenheit, but since the liquid is inside the plane and burning down steadily, it's much warmer there. On the ground though, nothing stops the fuel from turning into ice. If that happens, no flights are available, obviously. Same goes for the pumping equipment. Even if the fuel is still liquid, the pump may cover with ice and just stop delivering the fuel into the plane's tanks. In the worst-case scenario, it might even break down, leading to expensive repairs and prolonged delays in flights. Finally, ground crews have to do a lot of work before takeoff or landing, and they're all human after all, so they can't bear the freezing cold for too long. This issue is often resolved by tag teaming. One group of workers goes out in the field to do the job, while the other is waiting for them in a shelter. After 20 minutes or so, the first group returns to warm up, and the second one takes up the job where the first one left it. Although it's efficient, it still slows down the operations a lot, so that might also cause delays. But despite all the trouble freezing weather can cause, it's actually more beneficial for a plane than extreme heat. Cold air is denser than hot, so planes gain more lift and stay truer while in the air. They're more easily controlled in flight too. Air molecules are slower and closer together, creating a steady flow of air around the wings and cockpit. At high altitudes, the air naturally becomes thinner as the air molecules spread out and become more scarce. That's exactly why planes can't get to the upper layers of the atmosphere. There's just not enough air there to create sufficient lift. The same happens when it's too hot down on the ground though. Air molecules get faster and spread out, meaning the plane's wings don't have as much air to push off and get into the flight mode. To take off in extreme heat, a plane has to move much faster to generate enough air resistance and lift. But to move faster, the plane needs its engines to work better, and that's also impossible when it's too hot. As the air gets thinner, the amount of oxygen decreases too. And jet engines use oxygen in the atmosphere for combustion. When they lack this crucial element, they can't convert enough energy into thrust, meaning slower acceleration and worse energy output overall. So the problem is that the plane has to have a longer runway distance to build up enough speed and lift to take off, but it can't because its engines are not working to the best of their ability. This usually doesn't cause trouble, but only up to a point. When the temperatures on the ground level reaches about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, some flights can get cancelled because it's simply dangerous for them to try and take off. Other planes are more heat resistant and powerful, but that also depends on the heat. Some aircraft even have to reduce their weight by removing part of their fuel, cargo, or even passengers when it's too hot. Lighter load means better acceleration before takeoff, and it doesn't help to avoid cancellations, but it also means planes aren't working to their full capacity. The average cruising altitude for an airplane is about 35,000 feet. They don't technically need to be so high up, but that altitude gives the best speed and efficiency. Air gets thinner at higher altitudes, which means less wind resistance, but less lift. For most commercial aircraft, the area between 30,000 and 40,000 feet is the sweet spot where the two factors balance out. You probably still aren't using a laptop from 1999, and your computer isn't flying at close to the speed of sound. Fortunately, planes have a much longer lifespan than computers. There are airliners from the early 1970s that are still just fine. They might not be able to keep up in terms of speed and fuel efficiency, but older planes are no less safe than their modern counterparts. Contrails, those white trails airplanes leave behind them at high altitudes, are easily mistaken for engine exhaust, but most are nothing more than water vapor. During a flight, moisture in the air collects in the engines before being vented with the exhaust. The hot, wet air leaving the engines mixes with the cool, dry air found at high altitudes, resulting in long, thin lines of vapor. Humidity determines when contrails form and how long they remain visible. Ever notice the numbers on the end of a runway? They're actually used to show the pilot which direction the plane is facing. For example, the number 36 is short for a heading of 360 degrees or due north. Along with numbers, the letters R and L indicate if the nearest runway is to the right or left. The lights on the tips of a plane's wings are called position lights or navigation lights, and they're used during times of reduced visibility. They help planes to see each other in the dark and can also tell pilots what direction an aircraft is traveling. The red light marks the tip of the left wing, while the green light is on the right. The third light is white and found on or near the tail. It might seem odd that the flight crew cares whether your window shades are up or down. The main reason is so that the passenger's eyes can adjust to the outside light. Mostly, it's just a matter of getting people on and off quickly. But in an emergency, the last thing they want is people stopping to blink before they evacuate the plane.
It's winter, 1980. We're in the small town of Lengby. 19-year-old Jean Hilliard is driving home after meeting with a friend. She takes a shortcut and turns into an icy, slippery road. In the dark, she loses control of the rear-wheel drive car. The vehicle crashes into a ditch. Emergency lights, snowfall, night, and a hard frost. Jean gets out of the vehicle. She's wearing only a light winter coat, mittens, and cowboy boots. The air temperature is much lower than in a freezer. Jean is sure that her friend lives nearby, so she goes that way. She climbs a high hill and realizes she's taken the wrong route. It seems she's gotten lost. The girl wanders a couple more miles and notices her other friend's house in the distance. Freezing, she walks there. Then everything turns black. Jean loses consciousness. The next morning, rancher Wally Nelson wakes up in a great mood. It's the holiday season. There's a winter fairy tale outside the window. He leaves his house and notices the body of Jean Hilliard lying just a few feet from his porch. Wally approaches the girl, shakes her, and is horrified. Her body is stiff and cold like frozen wood. Her eyes are open and don't move. Her hair is frozen. She just doesn't look alive. But Wally sees that she's still breathing. Jean has managed to survive. Wally wants to put her in his car to bring her to the doctor, but the girl's body doesn't bend and can't fit into the auto. It feels like a statue. He takes a bigger car and rushes to the hospital as fast as possible. The doctors take Jean, but they don't think she has any chance to make it. Her hand is so hard and frozen that no needle can penetrate it. A low temperature, glassy eyes, and muscles as hard as stone are all the results of emergency mode. Her body has directed all the blood to the vital organs to ensure their functioning. That's why other parts of her body look so lifeless, and her skin and muscles don't react to anything. The doctors decide to put heating pads on the girl to warm her up. Her family hopes for her recovery, but right now, all they can do is just wait. Frostbite is so dangerous because all that frozen liquid begins to expand. Fill a small bottle with water and put it in the freezer for a few hours. Then take it out, and you'll see that the bottle seems to have expanded or even cracked because of the increased volume of the liquid. The same thing happens inside our bodies. We consist of almost 70% water. When it freezes, its particles turn into ice crystals and tear cell membranes. Ice fragments can stretch and destroy tissue. This is called frostbite. Also, our body can slow down all internal processes in extreme cold conditions to save strength and energy. The heart makes fewer beats, and the lungs stop consuming lots of oxygen. Metabolism slows down. It happened with Jean, and perhaps it is what saved her life that day. She was lying in the snow in severe frost for about 6 hours. But why didn't the ice particles start destroying her cell membranes? How did her body withstand such damage and manage to survive? Back at the hospital, doctors are happy to watch Jean get better. Warm blood spreads through the frozen vessels and brings her body back to life. Surprisingly, ice crystals haven't damaged her muscles and skin. A few hours later, the girl regains consciousness. By noon, she starts talking. Jean doesn't know what happened. She remembers walking to her friend's house and then waking up in the hospital. What worries her most right now is that her father's car is somewhere in a ditch. As it turns out, the girl fell down and crawled on all fours to Wally Nelson's house. She doesn't remember it, but apparently her brain activated the survival instinct that night. Unfortunately, she didn't manage to crawl the last few feet. Jean passed out at the door and stayed there for 6 hours. Doctors examine the girl and understand that she's completely healthy. Soon, she's discharged from the hospital. This case isn't unique. One professor of emergency medicine, David Plummer, said he'd seen about 12 similar cases over the past 10 years when patients had survived severe frostbite. Jean returns home and finds out that she has become famous. People write about her in newspapers, want to interview her, and film documentary shows. Her case has attracted the attention of many doctors around the world, but no one has been able to find out exactly how she managed to survive. In the case of humans, such recoveries seem like an absolute miracle. But many creatures of the natural world can adapt their bodies to extreme conditions. One of them is the tree frog. These animals live mainly in temperate and tropical parts of Eurasia. Sometimes they have to contend with cold weather. Their body injects glucose into the bloodstream when they feel they're freezing, and the content of their cells turns into syrup. Sugar lowers the freezing point of water. So, tree frogs have adapted to such conditions. The water outside their cells can freeze. Their bodies can get as hard as ice cubes, but they will be alive, feeling great. Then, when it gets warmer, they fully recover. The blood fills their body and puts all their muscles in motion. But one of the most amazing animals that can withstand freezing temperatures is the ghoulish icefish. It's transparent and somewhat like a jellyfish. It swims in the dark, cold Antarctic waters. The ghoulish icefish feels comfortable there because of the antifreeze in its body. More precisely, it's a unique substance that is like antifreeze in its functions. This liquid doesn't allow the animal's cells, organs, and the whole body to freeze. There are no red blood cells in the fish's blood that transport oxygen throughout its body. This is the only vertebrate with such a superpower. There are organisms on our planet that use the cold to prolong their life. Scientists have found some of them in the ice of Siberia. Those are microscopic, multi-celled creatures, like small worms, that can live in a freezer for about 10 years. But the worms from Siberia were about 24,000 years old. The scientists transported them to the laboratory and thawed them. The worms came to life and began to multiply immediately after all those centuries of sleep. Their bodies can go into cryptobiosis. This is when an entire frozen organism has minimal vital functions. The analysis showed that the worms could stay in this mode for tens of thousands of years. And there are many such animals on our planet. Also, these creatures are some of the world's most resistant to radiation. They are practically invulnerable. Now back to our story. It's possible that Jean Hilliard's body went into short cryptobiosis. Perhaps there was some non-freezing liquid in the girl's blood, but no one knows for sure. These days, she has an ordinary job and almost doesn't remember that day. Further research on this topic can help scientists create special medicines that can help in freezing temperatures. Just imagine that you could safely go outside in the winter wearing a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. Steam would be coming off your body, and the ice under your feet would be melting. You'd feel hot inside. A dream, perhaps. But realistically, winter coat manufacturers would, of course, never allow it.
We're in Siberia. It's so cold here that freezing gusts of wind are burning your face. All that white snow seems to be blinding you. This place resembles Antarctica because of the permafrost. Recently, a group of scientists researched one of the local rivers. With the help of a drilling rig, they extracted several samples of frozen soil. The scientists were shocked to find living creatures inside the ice. Later in the laboratory, they realized that the creatures were microscopic multi-celled organisms known as deloid rotifers. These creatures looked like little worms. Scientists knew that these worms could live in frozen conditions for up to 10 years. But the age of the rotifers found in the ice was about 24,000 years. And after defrosting, they began to reproduce, as if they had been sleeping for several hours, not thousands of years. Further analysis showed that these organisms could stay frozen for hundreds of thousands of years. The rotifers might have lived during the time when people didn't invent the wheel yet. And this isn't their only superpower. Deloid rotifers are among the most radioactively resistant animals on Earth. They can survive in places where there's no oxygen and water. They can also stay alive in areas with high acidity and can live without food and water for a long time. By the way, these are not the only creatures that are known for living for thousands of years. Particular types of moss and some microorganisms are also almost immortal. Nematodes, also called roundworms, are some of the most adaptive varieties of worms in the world. Imagine the Eiffel Tower standing tall and proud. And now, let's make it 10 times higher and place it underground. Exactly at this depth, many thousands of feet under the surface, scientists discovered these creatures. There's no sunlight and almost no air in this place. And since it's much closer to Earth's core than the surface of our planet, the temperature here is higher than in the middle of the hottest desert. Millions of tons of soil above create insane pressure. But all this couldn't prevent life from developing here. When roundworms run out of air, food, or when the temperature becomes too high, they get into a unique state of stasis, or deep hibernation. In this mode, the worm's metabolism slows down, and almost all the processes in their bodies stop. The creatures can sleep for a very long time, and only wake up when the environment becomes more livable. By the way, you don't have to go so deep underground to find these creatures. Nematodes are found all over the world. They can live in hot springs, deserts, high in the mountains, among the harsh ices of Antarctica, or inside animals and humans. Our next invulnerable creatures are tardigrades, also known as water bears. These are microscopic 8-legged invertebrates closely related to arthropods. It's impossible to see them with the unaided eye. But a conventional microscope will allow you to see tardigrades in detail. They look like minuscule bears. They're called water bears because they need a thin layer of water around their bodies at all times. It's necessary to prevent dehydration. Tardigrades have been found in all kinds of environments, from ocean depths to sand dunes. They're incredibly robust thanks to their unique organism structure. Yeah, they look soft, but their body is covered with a tough cuticle. This coating resembles the exoskeletons of grasshoppers, mantises, and many other insects. Water bears shed their old layer of the cuticle when they need to grow. Each of their 8 legs has 4 to 6 claws, which helps them cling to any surface. The bears can survive at a temperature that's almost 3 times as cold as the temperature in the ice of Antarctica. Heat doesn't harm them either. They have been proved to survive at the temperature that makes water boil. Also, water bears are not afraid of radiation and high pressure. In the depths of the ocean, pressure can destroy alloys of the strongest metals, but these creatures can withstand pressures 6 times greater. But the coolest thing is that they can live in the vacuum of space. Our planet has a magnetic field. This is a shield that protects us from solar radiation. Tardigrades don't need this protection. They can go into near-Earth orbit and come back unharmed, all thanks to a protein protecting their DNA from ionizing radiation. Like other immortal organisms, water bears can fall into a state of cryptobiosis. Tardigrades pull their head and legs inside their bodies and fall asleep. If the surrounding conditions suggest freezing, drying out, or experiencing a lack of oxygen, they will remain in this barrel form until the situation improves. So those are microscopic organisms and microbes that can only be seen through a microscope. But how about something bigger? Meet ironclad beetles. They live in the southwestern US and Mexico. These insects can not survive high temperatures, live without oxygen, or in conditions of increased radiation. But their shells are so tough that they can only be pierced with a drill or hammer. Their durable exoskeletons are made of a special substance, chitin. It can also be found in the armor of crabs or shrimp. And still, the chitin of the ironclad beetle is so durable that it allows this creature to withstand the impact of a car moving at high speed. In times of danger, they can hide their whiskers and strong legs in special recesses in their shell. Other animals can't bite through the armor, so they spit the beetle out and leave to look for lunch somewhere else. As soon as the danger disappears, the bug stretches out its legs again and goes about its business. Also, the armor saves the beetles from dehydration, which is very useful in hot areas of Mexico and the southwestern US. Inside the exoskeleton, they can store moisture. In other words, these bugs can absorb water whenever they find it and transport this liquid inside themselves. The next creatures are incredibly fragile, but they know how to survive in places where almost no other animals can live. We're going to the southeast of Romania, near the Black Sea. Here, on a desolate wide plain, you can notice a pit. This is a mine leading deep underground. The air on the surface of our planet usually contains around 20% oxygen, but in the mine, it's only 10%. Inside the cave, the air also has an increased content of hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide. People can't breathe there without an oxygen tank. We can probably say that the water and air there are poisoned. Almost no animals would be able to survive here. Still, 48 species of living organisms have been found in this cave. 33 of them are newly discovered species. And they aren't the only microbes or bacteria that can't be seen without a microscope. Something bigger lives here. Strange white snails crawl over the walls of the mines. Transparent shrimp and a bunch of unknown kind of leeches swim in the water. White centipedes with huge whiskers and creepy white spiders run on the ground. And they all have been growing here for almost 5 million years. You might notice a water scorpion and another unidentified species of this animal. It doesn't look like its relatives living in hot sands or tropical forests. No living creature here looks ordinary at all. All animals are either white or transparent. They have no eyes, but are equipped with long paws and antennae whiskers that help them navigate in this dark space. The deeper you go into the cave, the less oxygen the air contains. But the number of living organisms is increasing. The air is filled with methane and carbon dioxide. All the inhabitants of this cave have never seen the light of the sun and have never gone out of the darkness. It seems impossible to survive in such conditions where plants don't produce oxygen. The answer to the question of their survival is hidden in a small lake. The surface of the water is covered with strange foam. If you look closely, you can see that this white substance is alive. It resembles soft, wet paper that is easy to tear. The thing is billions of living organisms, bacteria called autotrophs. There's much more carbon dioxide in the cave than there is outside, and these bacteria, like plants, absorb it. But they don't do this with the help of photosynthesis, which means they don't need sunlight. They use water for chemosynthesis. What these bacteria secrete is food for other bacteria, and these other bacteria are food for bigger creatures. A unique food cycle that you can't find anywhere else on the planet only exists here.
In the high altitudes of northern China, there is one mountain that remains frozen all year round. It's a naturally occurring spot of cold earth. A thick layer of permafrost lies underneath the mountain's top layer of soil, freezing everything above it. The climate-defying pocket of frozen land covers over 26 feet of a mountain slope in Pingchuyen County, a place famous for its scorching hot summers, reaching highs of 90 degrees Fahrenheit. This frozen spot of land manages to survive the blazing temperatures due to the coarse blocky layer of soil covering the permafrost. This coarse soil prevents the hot climate from reaching and melting the permafrost, allowing the ground to stay frozen all year round. Argentina may be famous for its beautiful beaches and hot sun, but in southern Argentina, you can find Perito Moreno Glacier. This stunning blue glacier covers over 100 square miles and is constantly growing. When visiting this natural wonder, you might notice an archway of ice forming off the side of the glacier, reaching out to the nearby land. Suddenly, the archway ruptures and the ice collapses into the water below. This is completely natural. The glacier goes through a process of forming these arches until they collapse. It'll form another one in no time. On California's Glass Beach, there is no sand and only colorful gemstone-like pebbles called sea glass. Surprisingly, these beautiful pebbles are the result of garbage. For decades, the beach was used as a massive dumping ground for locals to abandon their glass, appliances, and even cars on the beachfront. The state eventually prohibited anyone from disposing of their garbage on the beach. Over the years, the waves broke down all the remaining junk and turned it into brightly colored pebbles that attract tourists from all over. The highest waterfall in the world, Angel Falls, can be found in southern Venezuela. The water there travels along one of the biggest tabletop mountains in Venezuela and plummets 2,500 feet down into the jungle below. That's 3 times taller than the Eiffel Tower. The water falls from so high that most of it evaporates into mist before even reaching the ground. Visitors can feel the mist settling on their skin from over half a mile away. In Scotland, hidden away from the main roads and tucked deep within the woodlands, is Fiddick Glen. This area looks like something out of an ancient fairy tale, with looming glass moss-covered rock formations and crimson red waters. The water's red color is due to the red sandstone lying beneath the shallow river. To get to this stunning natural beauty, you have to embark on a dangerous hike down steep, muddy hills, clambering onto trees to stop you from falling. But when you reach the bottom, it'll all have been worth it to watch the sunlight shine off the ruby waters and see the towering rocks of this enchanting world. With bubblegum pink water and a surrounding circle of emerald green forests, it's hard to believe that Lake Hillier is a real place. Located in Western Australia, no one can truly explain why the lake has pink color. However, scientists have theorized that the high quantities of salt in the lake have attracted a salt-loving pink bacteria called halobacteria, responsible for the lake's trademark shade. In a small peninsula in South America, there is one of the most beautiful natural wonders in the world, the marble caves. These look like any other caves from the outside. Inside these caves, the walls consist of smooth, swirling blue marble formations. Over thousands of years, water has eroded the marble deposits within these caves, forming this unique cave system. So while deep blue color seems like it's part of the marble, it's the reflection of the water that causes these blue shades along the cave walls. Azerbaijan's mud volcanoes are exactly what they sound like. Over 300 of these natural phenomena are located in Azerbaijan, more than anywhere else in the world. There have been over 200 eruptions since records began. Mud volcanoes are landforms caused by the eruption of mud, water, and gases. Pockets of gas form underground and force their way to the surface, eventually erupting and splattering mud everywhere. These volcanoes can be pretty dangerous. In 2006, a mud volcano erupted in Indonesia and coated an entire nearby village in thick mud. Pamukkale is a marvelous hillside of tiered thermal pools. The name of the Turkish city translates to Cotton Castle. The pools are made of travertine, a type of limestone that gives the hillside its stunning white color. In addition, the stone has geothermal properties, making the pools hot springs. There are 17 pools in total, and all are open to the public 7 days a week. The temperatures range from 95 degrees Fahrenheit all the way to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. They are essentially nature's version of a hot tub. Legend has it that the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland was formed when a great Irish giant was challenged to battle a Scottish giant. The causeway was built across the sea so the two giants could meet. When the Irish giant defeated his foe, the Scottish giant ran home and destroyed the causeway behind him. All that remains are the beginnings of the causeway at the water's edge. The stunning rock formation of interlocking columns was the result of an ancient volcanic eruption. The columns are a hexagonal shape and form a natural staircase from the Irish Sea to a foot of a cliff. The tallest columns are 39 feet high, The Giant's Causeway is the most popular tourist destination in Northern Ireland, receiving almost 1 million visitors in 2019. Deep within the Nika mines in Mexico, you can find the Cave of Crystals. The cave is full of massive shards of bright selenite crystals. The largest is 37 feet tall. These are some of the largest natural crystals in the world. It's thought that the water that previously filled the cave was incredibly rich in minerals, allowing the crystals to grow to their full potential. Unfortunately, tourists cannot visit the Cave of Crystals due to its scorching temperature and humid conditions. Even scientists are required to have a special permit to enter the cave. The River of Five Colors is located in the Colombian province of Meta. Known locally as the Rainbow River, the waters are famous for their striking colors. The river is variously colored yellow, green, blue, black, and most prominently red from summer till winter. Due to a lack of nutrients, the river's water is naturally clear, so it's easy to see diverse and colorful plant life on the riverbed. It's these vibrant plants that give the waters its many colors. In New Zealand, you can take a boat ride through the beautiful Waitomo Caves. The walls of the caves glow luminescent, like bright stars against the night sky. But these glowing lights aren't stars, they're worms. Luminescent glowworms live in the walls of the cave, giving the cave its trademark glow. The particular species of glowworms cannot be found anywhere else in the world. For thousands of years, the fairy chimneys have stood tall in Cappadocia, Turkey. These unusual rock formations are tall, thin spires of rock that were initially formed by lava. The tallest chimney is 130 feet high. Humans have hollowed out the insides of these rocks for hundreds of years to create homes for themselves. Today you can visit one of the many hotels that currently exist inside the fairy chimneys. Wave Rock is a popular spot for a photo shoot in Western Australia. The giant rock is 46 feet tall and shaped like a breaking ocean wave. Millions of years of strong winds and hard rainfall eroded the rock into the wave-like shape it has today. The rock has a stunning mix of red and gray colors caused by minerals washed down the rock. The site of the Wave Rock has become a famous camping ground due to its proximity to beautiful lakes and a variety of wildlife. The Zanyi National Geopark in China has previously been voted one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. The park is famous for its colorful rock formations, popularly known as the Rainbow Mountains. Layers of minerals and different colored sandstone were slowly pushed together across 24 million years to create the stunning landscape.
In a frosty Canadian park, hidden deep beneath layers of thick ice, scientists discovered a bizarre skeleton they named the Frozen Dragon. The skeleton had been in the frozen ice for millions of years. It took experts decades to work out the species of this strange fossil. It was identified as a new genus of pterosaur. Pterosaurs were massive flying reptiles with wingspans of over 16 feet. Their heads were 3.5 times the size of their bodies. Pterosaurs lived 76 million years ago when they soared above the dinosaurs. Scientists described them as the biggest, meanest, and most bizarre animals that ever flew. The new genus has been named Cryodragon boreas, which translates to Frozen Dragon of the North Winds. In 2013, a young mountaineer was climbing one of the tallest mountains in Western Europe, Mont Blanc. He noticed a strange metal box poking out of the snow. The mountaineer pried the box open and found that it was filled with precious rubies, emeralds, and sapphires. The climber immediately handed the box to the authorities. It was discovered that the box likely belonged to a passenger on one of 2 flights from India that crashed into the mountain over 50 years ago. The box was valued to be worth over $200,000, and authorities are still searching for the heir to the small box of treasures. In northwest Siberia in 2007, a reindeer herder was on an outing with his sons when he noticed something strange in the ice. The man realized it was a frozen mammoth calf and immediately contacted the local museum. The calf was named Luba and was the best preserved mammoth mummy in the world at the time of its discovery. Luba had been in the ice for 41,800 years and is around 30 to 35 days old. From trunk to tail, the mammoth calf is roughly the same size as a large calf. If you're interested in seeing for yourself, Luba travels to museums all around the world. On the frozen continent of Antarctica, covered in layers of ice and snow, is Mount Erebus, the frozen volcano. The volcano was discovered in the middle of an eruption in 1841 by explorers on an Arctic expedition. The volcano is over 12,000 feet tall and has been active for the last 1.3 million years. Deep within the middle of the volcano is a huge crater filled with large volumes of molten lava. The volcano has occasional explosions, which means it's classified as being in continuing eruption. However, these eruptions are nothing to worry about because they're generally rather small. Back in 1991, two hikers were traveling across the Italian Alps when they stumbled across a body that they presumed to belong to a recently lost hiker. The duo trudged back down the mountain to report their unfortunate findings. Once the remains were recovered, it was clear that the body was not recent at all. Scientists determined that the Iceman was more than 5,000 years old and named him Otzi. The discovery was unlike anything scientists had ever before seen because the body was so well preserved. For years, Otzi was studied by scientists who discovered that our ancestors have a lot more in common with us than we ever knew before. Otzi was covered in ink body art. Research done on the contents of his stomach revealed that his last meal was dry-cured meat, similar to the bacon we eat today. Otzi has at least 19 relatives living today, somewhere in Central Europe. Scientists were researching ancient squirrel burrows in Siberia when they came across something interesting. One of the squirrels had hidden away precious seeds deep beneath the ground. The seeds had been encased in ice for 32,000 years. The seeds were for the flower Silene stenophilia, which had long since gone extinct. Amazingly, scientists were able to recover plant tissue from inside the seeds and grow an entire crop of flowers. They've since reintroduced the previously extinct flower to natural habitats all across the world. In 1930, a team of Norwegian scientists sailed around the Arctic Ocean, conducting research on the seas and glaciers. They reached White Island, a dangerous and icy land no human had set foot on before, or so they thought. The scientists were shocked to discover the tip of a small boat sticking out of the snow. Frozen inside the boat, they found scientific equipment and various personal items, including a jacket monogrammed S.A. Andre. They had discovered the wreck of the famous Andre Arctic balloon expedition. In 1897, Swedish explorers, led by Andre, attempted to travel to the North Pole by hydrogen balloon. No one had ever heard from them ever again. People only found out what happened to them when the wreck was discovered 33 years later. It turns out that the balloon had crashed on White Island only 2 days after departing from Sweden. The explorers traveled along the island on a small makeshift boat, but were unable to make it any further. The best preserved woolly mammoth ever found was discovered in an area of permafrost in Siberia in 2010. Scientists named the frozen mammoth Yucca after the small village near where it was found. Yucca had been frozen for 39,000 years and is thought to have been around 6 to 8 years old. Because Yucca is so well preserved, it has been studied for years and provided new information about mammoths. In 2019, scientists reported that they were able to activate cells taken from Yucca's tissue. Maybe one day we'll have woolly mammoths roaming the land. From looking at pictures and videos of Antarctica, the continent appears to be freezing cold, covered in snow, and flat, except for a few small hills. Scientists believe that too. When studying the Gomburtsev Mountains in the early 2000s, they were shocked to discover that the small rocky hills were actually the peak of a gigantic mountain formation under a mile of snow. Using radar technology, researchers worked out that the mountains are really around 10,000 feet tall and sprawl across 750 miles. This is around the same size as the European Alps, except hidden under tons of ice and snow. At a gold mine in Siberia, a businessman was examining a nearby river when he noticed something interesting in the frost. It was a small woolly rhino calf that was later named Sasha. The woolly rhino has been extinct for 15,000 years. It's thought that Sasha could have been frozen in the ice for up to 39,000 years. Sasha is unique because it's the only full-body woolly rhino to have ever been discovered. Glaciers around the northern Italian town of Pelo have begun to melt. Artifacts from decades and even centuries ago have been discovered pouring out of the ice. Personal belongings from soldiers have been found, things like diaries, photographs, and even love letters. Historians have even uncovered an entire cabin preserved beneath the ice. The cabin was filled with hard metal helmets and clothes. In 1845, Sir John Franklin embarked on an ill-fated expedition to the North Pole. The crew traveled on 2 ships, HMS Erebus and the ironically named HMS Terror. The expedition met with disaster, and both ships were lost to the icy waters. In 2016, the HMS Terror was discovered by a team of researchers. Despite being lost for 170 years, the freezing cold waters had maintained the ship in pristine condition. Scientists described the ship as frozen in time. Dinner plates and glasses were still on shelves, beds and desks were still in order, and even the passengers' luggage appeared to be in good condition. The HMS Erebus was also discovered nearby, but due to changing water conditions, the ship wasn't in great shape. The glacial ice surrounding a mountain passageway in Norway that was notoriously used by the Vikings has revealed hundreds of ancient artifacts. One of these artifacts was a giant unopened wooden box that was welded together. Researchers were beside themselves with anticipation, waiting to open this box. They believed it would be filled with Viking treasures or artifacts that would give us an insight into ancient society. When they opened the box, all that was inside was a plain old beeswax candle. It turns out that this box wasn't actually as old as they thought it was. By analyzing the candle, they discovered that the box dates back to the 17th century. The age of the Vikings had ended by the 11th century. It's likely that the candle box belonged to a farmer who was shipping it from his summer farm to his winter farm to light up the long nights.
A whopping 1/3 of healthy teens and adults say they often feel super sleepy and like they have no energy. Let's get to the root of why we're all so tired. Pardon me. First off, you need to avoid eating too many refined carbs like sugar. It gives you a rapid energy fix and your blood sugar levels shoot up. But this is temporary, and it quickly comes back down. This is what we call a sugar crash. Craving quick energy leads us into a bad cycle of being energized and then quickly crashing. That's why eating too many sugary foods can actually make you super tired throughout the day. Think of it as plugging your phone in to charge when the battery is low. It works fine when it's plugged in, but take it off charge and the battery level quickly drops. Reducing the amount of sugar and processed carbs you have in your meals and snacks will give you way more energy throughout the day. Replacing those chocolate snacks with vegetables is going to make you feel way more alert during the day. Food has a huge impact on your energy levels. You get a lot of your energy from calories. If you don't eat enough of these calories, your metabolism slows down so that you can save the little energy that you have. This can make you feel and even look like a zombie. Teenage boys need around 2,800 calories each day, while girls need 2,200. When you're done doing all that growing and turn into an adult, that number drops down to 2,500 calories for men and just 2,000 for women. Protein is also really important for boosting your energy levels. It's found in meats, including beef, lamb, and chicken. Dairy products, eggs, and fish are also really great sources of protein. If you're tired, you should also be watching your caffeine intake. When you think an afternoon coffee or energy drink is the perfect thing to wake you up throughout the day, it can really mess with your sleep. Most people think caffeine stays in our system for around 5 to 7 hours. That's why everyone says don't drink coffee before bed. But in reality, caffeine stays in our bodies for double that amount of time. That's between 10 and 14 hours. Let's say you drink a caffeinated drink by 3 p.m. By 10 p.m., when you're winding down for bed, half of that caffeine is still in your system, giving you an energy boost when you really don't need it. That means by 4 a.m., a whopping quarter of the caffeine from your drink is still in your system. This is sure to make you toss and turn throughout the night. There is a simple fix for this one. Just avoid any energy drinks or coffee after lunchtime. They say you need around 8 hours of sleep to feel refreshed the next day. Younger people need even more than that. Here's where a lot of us are going wrong. If you need to wake up at 7 a.m. for school, you go to bed at 11 p.m. to get that 8 hours of sleep. But that's not taking into account you could spend over a half an hour falling asleep. Work out on average how long it takes you to doze off and add this on to your 8-hour sleep time. After a couple of weeks of doing this, you'll feel much more refreshed. It's also a bad idea to climb into bed and open up Netflix before you hit the hay. Your bed is solely a place to sleep. Your bright laptop screen won't help you drift off either. You should ideally avoid using any screens that give off blue or white lights at least an hour before bed, ideally more. This includes your phone, laptop, and TV too. Screens prevent your brain from releasing the sleep hormone, which is called melatonin, making it difficult for your body to know when it's time to doze off. Your body gets confused and thinks that your screen light is sunlight, assuming it's daytime. This is why it keeps you awake and supplies your brain with energy. Try taking it one step further and making your bedroom an electronic-free zone. You can swap that phone screen for a good book, and it should help you drift off to slumberland a lot quicker. Audiobooks can also work really well to help you doze off. Another tip you can try to ensure you're getting as much sleep as possible is to get a blackout blind. If you don't want to spend any money, you can also just take a dark sheet or towel to cover your window. This way, when the light starts to come into your room in the earlier hours of the morning, it doesn't wake you, and you can carry on dreaming about puppies and kittens, or whatever. Exercise is another super important thing to keep us energized throughout the day. It also helps us sleep. You might think that if you get home tired after school or work, that lying on the couch could help you recharge your batteries. But although it's the last thing you want to do, try a little exercise instead. Even just 15 minutes will do. This doesn't mean you have to start going to the gym every day. Try incorporating a daily walk into your schedule. It doesn't need to be long. A half an hour round trip is all it takes. There are 3 really easy ways to get a bit more active during the day. Walk instead of jumping in the car for short journeys. Switch the elevator for the stairs. Stand rather than sit down whenever possible. If you work in an office or at home, try a standing desk. Jumping jacks are an easy exercise you can add to your daily routine. They work the whole body and get your blood pumping. You don't need any equipment either, so they're great for when that midday slump hits you in the office. A solid sleeping pattern is also super important for being more alert every day. Try going to bed at the same time every night, then waking up at a set time each morning too. Adults who go to bed at the same time on weekdays and weekends are generally less tired throughout the day and have less difficulty falling asleep at night. Just like plants wilting when they don't get enough water, our bodies can't function properly when we need some H2O. Drinking lots of water throughout the day will help you keep those energy levels up high, whether you're about to climb Mount Everest or just shopping at the local store. Stress uses up a lot of that energy you've worked to build up. If you've got an assignment due or a big exam coming up, try these tips to de-stress. Listen to your favorite tunes. Read a great book. Hang out with your best friends. Try out yoga or meditation. There's a bunch of free at-home yoga tutorials online. Meditation is super simple too. Just find a calm place to sit and get comfortable. Focus on your breath, slowly breathing in and out. You're going to want to set a time limit as well. If you're new to meditation, start with a small amount, like 5 or 10 minutes. There's a whole bunch of meditation sounds on the internet to help keep you calm and focused too. Whatever relaxes you is a surefire way to feel refreshed and boost those energy levels. Now, if you've tried all of this and you're still feeling tired, there may be another hidden reason. Food intolerances can make you feel super sluggish and affect your energy and sleep. Gluten, dairy, or egg intolerance is really common. You also get loads of your energy from vitamins. You can get iron from spinach, broccoli, red meat, and turkey. Vitamin D comes mostly from mushrooms, fatty fish, seafood, and most importantly, sunshine. Milk, eggs, and beef are great sources of B12. If changing your diet is too much to ask, though, you can always pick up vitamin supplements from your local health store. This will do the trick too.
The holiday spirit comes with holiday decorations. Sparkling lights, garlands, and snow globes are all part of it. Our furry friends like to play with them too. But did you know that this stuff has some hidden dangers? Let's take a closer look at pet safety tips in your household, both during holiday times and any other time of the year. Number 1 is tinsel. It's a go-to option to spread a celebration vibe. Tinsel is also known to spread all over the place. You might have noticed this if you trimmed a tree with it. Pets, especially cats, love such decorations. Yet, if they eat a piece of tinsel, it can cause intestinal problems. Not to mention emotional effects. The consequences can cost a lot money-wise too. Surgery to remove a foreign object can cost hundreds of dollars. Don't underestimate the appeal of a shiny object in the room, and keep your eye on your pets. Number 2 is decorative lights. Once you're done, you put them in the box, and they spend the whole year there, tangled. When you open the box next year, you'll have a hard time untangling them. But while you're unpacking, your pets can eat the lights or get an electric shock. To avoid this, you can bundle up loose cords with protective plastic covers and hang the lights in places your pets can't easily reach. Some people have a snow globe collection. They get these balls as souvenirs from tourist places they go to. Others take them out of a box with holiday decorations at certain times of the year. These fragile things can easily break. Don't ask me how I know this. Some snow globes contain ingredients that are hazardous not only to pets, but also to younger family members. Numerous veterinary sources are full of the same warning. Keep your pets away from snow globes. That being said, the liquid inside snow globes might not be just pure water. It often contains 2% ethylene glycol, and it turns out it has a sweet smell that can lure pets to taste it. Number 4 is about Christmas trees and how they can turn into pet-friendly decor. Vets say that artificial trees and garlands can be safer than real ones. These trees don't carry the outdoor scent with them, so smell-wise, they don't attract your pets that much. Here, the important part is not to buy a flocked or snow-covered artificial tree. These sprinkles, again, can be harmful to pets. If you're not into buying artificial trees, you can attach a fishing line to the tree and hang it on the ceiling to stabilize it. As for the water for the tree, your pet might want to taste it. It's best not to add aspirin or other things to this water. You can cover the reservoir with foil to keep your animals away. Lastly, you can temporarily put a large water bowl in the same room as the tree. If your pet gets thirsty, they can go to their bowl instead of the reservoir. You can consider putting a barrier in front of the tree to make it less accessible. But some cats are wild. They'll just take it as a challenge, and they'll easily get over most obstacles. Yet, most of them don't want to bother with double-sided sticky tape. You can try that. When I talked about snow globes, it included magnets too. I wonder whether magnets can be dangerous for pets. We use them for various purposes in our homes. For starters, with their help, we showcase our photos or notes on the fridge door. Our four-pawed friends can easily get their paws on it. These fridge magnets might not be as harmful as so-called rare earth magnets, though. Neodymium magnets, for example, are the real danger. These kinds of magnets are very powerful. If you accidentally pinch your body parts, they can injure you. Imagine these magnets as warriors. When they get too close to each other, they can strike with a super force to chip and shatter regular magnets. You wouldn't want that type of magnet near your pets or little members of your family. Rare earth magnets are normally used in stuff like hard disks, locks for doors, or headphones, but they're also used as toys. These magnets aren't especially toxic, so if your dog accidentally eats one of them, the magnet may leave its body in a natural way. But What if it eats 2 super powerful magnets? I don't want to get into the details of this scenario. The intestines loop back and forth in the abdomen, and if these magnets get too close to each other, yeah. Apparently, pennies made later than 1982 are also hazardous. They contain high levels of zinc. You might think, isn't zinc an essential mineral for our body? Yes, for growth, wound healing, and many more aspects. Yet, the body needs a small amount of zinc. Too much can cause poisoning. Zinc is found in many metal objects, such as bolts, zippers, and jewelry. If you live in the US, you should know that pennies minted after 1982 have zinc cores covered in copper plating. One of the most common causes of zinc poisoning in pets is these pennies. Household plants and flower bouquets can also be dangerous. Let's say you have a bouquet of tulips that you want to keep, and your cat looks so funny trying to push the vase off the table. You shouldn't let curiosity get the best of your cat. Aloe vera, Daphne, daylily, oh, the list is long. The moral of the story is, kittens are curious and shouldn't eat plants or flowers because they can be toxic for their fluffy bodies. The next one is batteries. The acidic material inside them can leak if they get blasted. Imagine your dog chewing them accidentally. Severe consequences and immediate surgery would be the next step. When I say batteries, I also mean stuff like remotes, watches, and hearing aids. They're also powered by batteries. The next item on the list is food. Yeah, I know how hard it can be sometimes to eat while your pet gives you the look, "I want to taste that too! Give me a bite, human, please!" Okay, allow me to explain the dangers so that you can resist the temptation to share your food with your bestie. Avocado is toxic to birds and rabbits. Apple seeds and almonds are bad for hamsters. One myth is that rabbits eat lettuce, but in reality, you shouldn't include some types of lettuce in their diet. For example, iceberg lettuce. It contains lacticarium. It can be harmful if your animal eats too much of it. Another myth is that cats should drink milk. Nope. Cow's milk is not good for cats because, surprise, most cats are lactose intolerant. Chocolate, garlic, grapes, and raisins can also be dangerous to pets. How toxic something is depends on several factors, like the species of your pet and how much of the potentially harmful thing the animal has eaten. At the end of the day, you know your pet better than anyone. You probably already know how long it takes them to visit their litter box or how it smells. So always be prepared. Watch your pet's behavior. Do they have a decreased appetite? It's best to play it safe. When I say pets, I picture animals like dogs, cats, and hamsters. But some people have exotic pets, such as bears, owls, or crocodiles. The Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries believes that 5,000 tigers are held by people in the United States alone. This number includes zoos, but the majority of them live with private owners. Mountain lions are also commonly seen among exotic pets. Maybe this is why from time to time we encounter news telling us that something went wrong with private owners of wild animals. Do you have a pet? If you do, what's their name? Why not let us know in the comments?
Do you want to build a snowman? One that won't melt and will stay with you no matter the weather? And you don't need to wait for the snow to build it either. You're intrigued, right? Then let me guide you through every step of this fun project. You should get a few things ready. Grab a pen and some paper because I'm listing all the materials you'll need. Paper clay, acrylic paints, aluminum foil, some wires, toothpicks, glue, and some brushes for applying the paint as well as giving texture to your mini figurine. Probably to your surprise, you're not only going to use paper clay to make the body parts of the little snow guy. You'll have to start with aluminum foil. Trust me, it's going to make things so much easier for you, even if you're not a professional sculptor. And not to mention, cheaper too. You'll just have to create the shape by folding the foil first. And the next step will be wrapping it with paper clay. Now, as you can guess, the smallest ball is going to be the head of your snowman and the part you'll need to work on the most. You'll want it to look its best after all. The first thing to do is to carve out small holes for the eyes. Making the mouth is simpler. With the help of your shaping tools, just make a line as a base and follow my lead to give it some details and depth. Then glue 2 teeny tiny clay balls to these holes. This will make the snowman's face look more realistic than just painting eyes on it. After all, eyes are windows to the soul. Admit it, this reminds you of some Tim Burton movie, huh? Hey, can't forget about the carrot nose. And no, we're not using real carrots here. Everything is coming together. Almost. Show your snowman style with some accessories after making his hands. Then, it's time to bring some color to his world. But heads up, this takes precision and patience. And voila! Hello, snowman! You know what? Now that you know how to make this figurine, you can put your own spin on the design or even try to create your own original characters. And who knows, maybe you can even create a stop-motion movie with them. Good luck! Can't wait to watch you walk down the red carpet at the Film Awards.
Harsh winds made this icy land unrecognizable. If you lived in Australia about 100 million years ago, you'd be wearing jackets and sweaters. But around 220 million years ago, this icebox of land was locked up in what used to be Pangaea. This supercontinent had Australia and Antarctica fused, including even South America and Africa. Scientists found out Australia was going solo at the same speed as your fingernails grow when it decided to cut ties with Antarctica. Before that, the Earth was just a giant floating ball of ice, and the sun wasn't as hot and fiery as today. You're walking along an icy path in the early Cretaceous period. You're looking for something to eat, but plant life is scarce. With no sunlight, there isn't any energy source for any edible vegetation, say for moss. So, finding a decent snack would be like bumping into a unicorn. You lurk around and find 3-toed footprints leading to what looks like a frozen forest. You follow them, but still can't figure out who these prints belong to. You reach a dead end with the snow up to your knees and realize you're stuck. Suddenly, you hear some growling not far away. You look to your right and see a large theropod walking towards you. It's almost as tall as a giraffe and has razor-sharp teeth on its jaws. Ooh, lucky you. This dino is a carnivore and probably the CEO of the prehistoric meat-eating world. Scientists have discovered at least 15 other dinosaur species, including a 22-foot-long polar carnivore and a smaller predator that could easily run away from its larger mates. You try to swim through the thick snow as the beast with those large teeth is making its way to you. Good thing some trees don't let it move quickly enough. You manage to find a good rhythm, lift each leg above your waist, and make it out in time. As it gets closer to you, you make it through the snow and duck between some bare trees. You were lucky this time, but it'll be back for you. Fossils of plants and leaves show that back in those days, Antarctica wasn't as chilly as it is today, and the same goes for its northern counterpart, Alaska. Still, living between 70 to 100 million years ago wasn't that comfortable. The T-Rex was the undisputed king of the dinosaurs. Scientists found bones and fossils from dry places like Montana and Texas, but they were shocked when they found T-Rex fossils in Alaska. There were also fossils of horned, long-necked, and feathery dinosaurs in the Arctic region. Even though the T-Rex was an apex predator, it wasn't as fast as you would expect, but its size was enough to make you run for your life. One of the T-Rex's favored meals was a duck-billed dino as big as an elephant called the Edmontosaurus, which dwelled in frosty areas. These creatures were probably slow migrators and wouldn't have been able to find any shelter to live through the harsh conditions. Their jaws show they were plant eaters and had to find some greens to munch on wherever they went. They were constantly on the move since they strolled rather than ran. Scientists claim they would walk at an incredibly slow speed of around 1 mile per hour. Even a tortoise could outrun them. If you were a dinosaur during those days, then you'd face one of the most challenging decisions of your life. Live with mom and dad or get your own place. No, actually, the choice was to stay for the winter or flee. The dinos that remained in the frosty lands made nests and stayed for the whole year. Some scientists debate whether these polar dinosaurs were warm-blooded or cold-blooded. Mammals and birds have internal mechanisms to keep warm, like using their muscles and metabolism. That's why our bodies shiver when we're freezing. Reptiles need to bask under the sun or lie next to any heat-producing surroundings to absorb heat and charge themselves for the rest of the day, just like you charge your phone, but they didn't have phones then. You continue walking around trying to find something to eat. Your stomach is growling and you feel you're getting weaker. The wind picks up and throws some snow at you. Good thing you're wearing a thick coat and some proper leg wear. You're getting tired and need to find a place to rest. But out in the wilderness, staying in one place is like offering yourself as an open buffet to any predator. You sneak out and manage to get into a small cave to escape the upcoming blizzard. You start a small fire to keep warm, but you turn around and notice that the cave inside extends further. You quickly make a torch and walk inside. Scientists said that some dinosaurs might have burrowed to survive the storms. They found some structures in southern Australia that resembled a habitat for burrowing creatures around 100 million years ago. After walking for hours, you finally reach the other end of the cave. But this time the weather is a lot better and the sky is crystal clear. You notice small footprints leading to the river. Strangely, there's no icy crust on the water, so you cup your hands and take a few quick gulps. Suddenly, a large shadow looms over you. You turn around and see a huge feathery dinosaur with bulging eyes. It kinda looks and moves like a velociraptor, and it's looking straight at you as if you were its snack. You get up slowly. You know you can't outrun it, so you have no choice but to fight it off. But then another figure appears nearby. A small herbivore called the Leolinacera, walking on 2 legs with a long tail, pops up and takes a sip from the river. The carnivore's attention has shifted towards it, and it forgets about you. Out of nowhere, a giant theropod rushes in from behind the frozen forest and chases them. You run back to where the cave was, trying not to get spotted. Humans weren't in the script then. 7 million years ago, Homo sapiens split from apes, becoming a fully independent species around 200 to 300,000 years ago. Neanderthals also thrived. While Homo sapiens were living and thriving in Africa, Neanderthals were migrating to parts of Europe and Asia and were the first humans to live through an ice age. Scientists claim that Neanderthals couldn't compete with Homo sapiens and slowly disappeared. Some of them integrated with Homo sapiens. Earth has been through 5 ice ages. They're powerful enough to change Earth's physical structure permanently and are partly responsible for landscape design. We're actually in the middle of an ice age right now that's been going on for 2.6 million years. But we happen to be living in the warmer interval parts that can last for tens of thousands of years. Neanderthals were shorter and stockier than Homo sapiens. They had wider noses and big skulls. According to scientists, they lived in caves and fashioned up clothes and tools made of stones and bones. They also had flat teeth on their jaws for gnawing and chewing, just like Homo sapiens. Ice ages played an essential role for Homo sapiens to adapt and survive. In their caves, they were able to draw scenes of hunting and gathering, and were the first ones to harness the power of fire for warmth, protection, light, and cooking. They also used an advanced system of sewing clothes, using bone needles and animal skins to make thick coats to warm themselves up. Ah, those were the days, huh?
If you make a snowball and try to set it on fire using your lighter, the thing won't melt. The snow will first turn black. Then it'll start to vanish, but you'll get no water. There's nothing supernatural about this phenomenon. The snow is melting, but you don't see it because of the structure of the snowflakes. They kind of wick away the melted water, and it gets absorbed by the remaining relatively loosely packed snowball. As for the black char marks, they're simply traces of soot left by the lighter fluid. A 2017 study suggested people had accidentally created a protective bubble around the planet, all thanks to decades of using very low-frequency radio waves. They've formed an artificial cocoon that shields Earth from radiation and solar flares. Helium can make your voice go squeaky and helps your balloons float in the air. Can the stuff get even better? Yep. Try cooling it to the extreme temperature of negative 460 degrees Fahrenheit. That's just above absolute zero. That's when you'll see this gas turn into a superfluid, which means it can move without friction. In this state, it can do some pretty bizarre things. It can leak through seemingly solid materials. It can stay motionless while the container it's in is being spun. And it can even climb the walls of the said container. Water can freeze and boil at the same time. This is called the triple point. That's when a substance can be solid, liquid, and gaseous at the same time. But there's only one pressure and temperature that can make it possible. Scientists have discovered a new state of matter. It's known as time crystals. Created in a lab, they are a concept that's insanely hard to grasp. These structures repeat regularly in time rather than in space. And in 2020, scientists even claimed they witnessed 2 time crystals interacting. In 1 teaspoon of soil, there are more microorganisms than there are people on Earth. Bacteria, microscopic insects, algae, mites, fungi, beetles, earthworms, you name it. In other words, the soil under your feet is one of the greatest concentrations of biomass ever. Poke a hole in the side of a bottle and let a stream of water flow out of it. Then aim a laser pointer through the bottle. You'll see the beam get caught in the tiny waterfall and curve downward. It happens when the light travels through some dense material, in our case, water. Then it hits the boundary with something that has a lower density, like air, and it makes the light curve. Our moon used to have an atmosphere. Several volcanic eruptions happened on Earth's natural satellite around 4 billion years ago. They released immense volumes of gas, trillions of tons. It was so much that the gas didn't have enough time to escape into space. That's how an atmosphere was formed. Bird eggs come in all kinds of shapes, and what an egg looks like seems to be down to a bird's ability to fly. The stronger a bird's flight is, the more elliptical and pointy its egg will be. And those species which hardly ever leave the ground lay oval-shaped and rounded eggs. Plus, an egg's length always correlates with a bird's body size. If you drop an egg to the floor in your kitchen, you'll make a big mess. But it's different if you do it in the water, say at a depth of 60 feet below the surface. The pressure there is almost twice greater than at sea level, and it'll hold the egg together like a makeshift shell. The chances are extraterrestrial dust particles are lying on your rooftop. Called micrometeorites, they're less than 400 microns in size. That's about 1/3 of a grain of sand. Scientists think around 100 billion micrometeorites fall to Earth every year. On average, the ocean is as deep as 8 Empire State Buildings stacked one on top of another. This depth is even more impressive in the Challenger Deep, the deepest part of the Mariana Trench and the world ocean. There, you could fit 25 Empire State Buildings. Cold water freezes more slowly than hot. This is known as the Mpemba effect. One of the reasons, but not the only one, is that when the hot water starts to cool, its mass decreases. It happens because some water evaporates. There's less water left to freeze, and the process takes less time. On the other hand, cold water heats up faster than hot. The speed of this process depends on the temperature difference between the liquid and its surroundings. That's why cold water needs less time to absorb heat. But it doesn't mean it'll boil faster than hot water. Zealandia is a drowned continent in the Pacific Ocean. It's often described as a continental fragment or a microcontinent. Its area is almost 2 million square miles, about half as big as the US. It went underwater about 23 million years ago. New Zealand is Zealandia's largest part that remains above sea level. People are still evolving. Scientists have been tracking several millions of human anomalies. It turns out some harmful genes are slowly but surely getting filtered out of human DNA. Mercury is one of the very few metals that remain in their liquid form at standard room temperature and pressure, all because mercury atoms have extremely weak bonds between one another. Researchers claim that great apes, like orangutans or chimpanzees, can't appreciate music, like at all. Studies show they can't tell the difference even between the most opposite genres. Music is just meaningless noise to them. You'd need a drop of liquid, a state-of-the-art laser 3D printer, and a couple of hours of work to make the tiniest fidget spinner ever. Its width will be smaller than that of your hair strand. At least, researchers at Oak Ridge National Laboratory managed to do just that. A camel can drink up to 30 gallons of water in a bit more than 10 minutes. This water is stored in the animal's bloodstream. As for its fatty hump, it provides the camel with nourishment when there's little food around. Some sea animals, like salmon or turtles, use our planet's magnetic field to find their way home. In its gaseous form, oxygen is colorless and doesn't have any odor. But when it's liquid or solid, this substance looks pale blue. After being caught by a black hole, a star gets ripped apart by its enormous gravitational forces. Some parts of the star's remains hurtle into the black hole. The rest, in the form of a huge jet of plasma, is ejected with such force that it travels hundreds of light years away. Your lungs not only help you breathe, but they also produce blood cells. These cells are responsible for the clotting, which stops bleeding. The lungs make more than 10 million of these tiny cells per hour. Not so long ago, scientists decided the dino's family tree had to be redrawn for the first time in 130 years. Apparently, 2 species of dinosaurs had to be grouped together from the very beginning. Those were the lizard-hipped meat-eaters, like T-Rex, and bird-hipped vegetarians, such as the Stegosaurus. Only 2 letters never appear on the periodic table. Those are J and Q. Spin a ball when you drop it, and it'll fly through the air while falling. This phenomenon is known as the Magnus effect. You can see it at work in different sports, for example, tennis or baseball. Sound travels almost 4 times faster underwater than it does in the air. That's why divers often have problems with figuring out the direction of sound. Bananas contain potassium, and this element is slightly radioactive. On the bright side, you need to eat 10 million bananas before radiation can negatively affect you. There's a device that can put out a fire with the help of sound waves. It's called a sonic fire extinguisher. There are underwater lakes and rivers in the oceans. They're known as brine pools. The water in them is saltier and denser than the rest in the area. Brine pools have shorelines and sometimes even waves. Stars look as if they're twinkling because of the turbulence in Earth's atmosphere. It makes the light from the stars move in a different direction before reaching your eyes. And this looks as if the light is shaking. It takes water 1,000 years to complete its continuous journey around the world. The whole process is known as the global ocean conveyor belt. Bismuth is a brittle, shiny white metal with a pink tinge. If you melt it and then let it cool really slowly, it'll form iridescent cubic crystals. In the deserts of California, stones move on their own. Some of these sailing rocks are as heavy as 700 pounds. Most of them move in straight lines, while others create oval turns. When the wind catches small droplets of lava from active volcanoes, it carries them miles away from the vent. The droplets get stretched into super thin glass wires called hair lava. Some strands can be as long as 6 feet. The desert rose appears in arid places that occasionally get flooded. The environment keeps switching from dry to wet and back. It allows gypsum crystals to trap sand grains and form flat petals.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos